This is absolutely despicable. Representative Al Green just confronted Homeland Security officials during a House hearing about DHS Secretary Kristi Noem publicly claiming that Alex Pretti was brandishing a firearm and wishing to inflict harm on officers before federal agents killed him in Minneapolis. And when Green showed them the widely published video evidence that directly contradicts Noem's statements, video showing Pretti holding a phone, not a weapon, ICE and Border Patrol leadership admitted they wouldn't testify about a case before a full investigation, which is exactly what Noem violated when she rushed to defend the officers who killed Pretti. We're talking about the Secretary of Homeland Security making false public statements to cover up a fatal shooting, claiming a man threatened officers with a gun when multiple videos show he was holding a cell phone, all while that man lay dying on the ground after federal agents tackled him, discovered his legally registered concealed carry weapon, and shot him execution style. Green methodically built his case, getting each official to acknowledge the basic principle that you don't make statements before investigations are complete, and then exposed how Noem shattered that principle to protect her agents. The sheer brazenness of Noem standing before the American people and describing a killing in terms that video evidence proves are completely false should horrify everyone watching this, regardless of your politics. Let's watch what happened, and I'll explain exactly why Green is calling for Noem to be prosecuted and why this represents one of the most egregious cases of a cabinet secretary covering up federal misconduct we've seen in modern history.
Will you give me a moment to get a bit closer, please? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I say it sincerely. I believe this is a most valuable hearing, and I'm honored that the ranking member would be here with us to accommodate us, as is the case with you. Mr. Lyons, is it true that you have a criminal justice degree, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice?
Yes, sir, it is.
Is it also true that you have a master's degree in criminal justice leadership?
Yes, I do.
And would you, as a professional with 2 degrees in criminal justice, indicate to us that if an officer commits murder, that officer should be prosecuted?
Sir, any law enforcement misconduct needs to be investigated and prosecuted.
Investigated and prosecuted. And have you seen the widely published video of the killing of Mr. Alex Pretti?
Yes, sir.
And sir, my assumption is that if I ask you whether this was an injustice, you would say you cannot comment because of an ongoing investigation. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
And what is the rationale for not responding to an ongoing investigation?
Sir, I don't want to impede or prejudice the investigation.
No, not this one. Oh. Any, as in your profession now, but any investigation. What's the rationale? Not this one, any.
Same for any investigation, sir. I don't want to.
You would not want to.
I don't want to bias or put my finger on the scale of any investigation.
You not. What's the rationale for your not testifying about it? Is my question.
I don't understand your question, sir.
What does the law say? What is the rationale? What harm would it do if you testified?
Because I don't have the full facts of the case yet, sir.
Exactly, that's what I expected you to say. You don't have the full facts, thank you. And I assume you would agree with this, Mr. Scott, is this true?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Edlow, you would agree?
I assume so. I'm not a professional in law enforcement.
Well, but you're a professional person with a degree of intellect such that you can comment on whether or not.
Well, I certainly would not comment on anything.
Not a specific case. We're talking about now any case. Would you agree that it would cause harm for you to testify before there's an investigation?
Certainly, without having all the facts.
All right, surely you would agree. Which brings us to Secretary Noem. Secretary Noem accused Mr. Pretti of brandishing a firearm while wishing to inflict harm on the officers. Secretary Noem. Same rules that apply to you apply to Secretary Noem. Accused this gentleman, Mr. Pretti, of brandishing a firearm. Secretary Noem doing this when she did without an investigation, We have to agree that there's not been an investigation. I don't think I have to ask you that. Not a complete investigation that we know of, anyway. She did it right afterwards. Having done this, she is violating this very basic principle that you have called to our attention today. And we have to ask ourselves, why would she go so far as to say brandishing when he did not? The video will clearly show it. And she said wishing to inflict harm. Did not inflict any harm, but the secretary, without an investigation, made these comments. I'll tell you why. The secretary was in a rush to cover up, to make sure that she was protecting the officers without regard for the life that was lost. And in doing this, she was violating not only this basic moral concept, she was breaking the law. The secretary should be investigated right along with those officers who are out there engaged in this ungodly conduct. She should be investigated. And in my opinion, based upon my observation, secretary should not only be investigated, the secretary should be prosecuted right along with those officers. This man did not brandish. This man was not armed. This man did not attempt to hurt those officers. They should all be prosecuted. And you persons associated with the Trump
Gentleman's
administration
time
say lock her up. I say lock her up.
Gentleman's time has expired.
What you just witnessed was Representative Al Green systematically dismantling the cover story that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem told the American people about why federal agents killed Alex Pretti. Let's be very clear about what happened here and why it matters. On January 23, 2026, federal agents conducting an ICE operation in Minneapolis encountered Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old registered nurse who was filming the operation on his cell phone. Multiple bystander videos captured what happened next. Pretti was tackled by federal agents, pinned to the ground, and then shot multiple times. The New York Times analyzed more than a dozen videos from multiple angles and determined what they call ground truth, what actually happened versus what officials claimed. Here's what the videos show. Pretti holding a phone, not brandishing a weapon, not threatening officers, filming an ICE operation, which is completely legal under the First Amendment. The videos show him being tackled, agents discovering his legally registered concealed carry weapon in his waistband holster, and then, critically, shooting him while he was already subdued on the ground. Now, here's what Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem told the public immediately after the killing, before any investigation was complete. She claimed Pretti was brandishing a firearm and had the intention to inflict harm on the officers. Those are her exact words: brandishing, wishing to inflict harm. Both statements directly contradicted by video evidence that the entire world can now watch. Green's questioning was surgical in its precision. He started by asking the ICE acting director and the Border Patrol commissioner a simple question: should law enforcement officials testify about a case before there's been a full investigation? And both officials said no. They acknowledged that without having all the facts, making public statements could cause harm. That's basic criminal justice procedure. You don't prejudge an investigation. You don't make statements that could taint evidence or influence proceedings. Then Green asked if they'd seen the widely published video of the Alex Pretti killing. They said yes. And then he asked the devastating question, would you agree that Secretary Noem violated that basic principle by making statements before the investigation was complete? That's when Green laid out exactly what Noem did. She accused Pretti of brandishing a firearm. The video shows he wasn't. She claimed he wished to inflict harm on officers. The video shows no such intent. It shows a man filming with his phone, a completely legal activity. She made these statements publicly, immediately, rushing to defend the officers without waiting for an investigation that might reveal, as the videos did reveal, that her agents killed a man who posed no threat. Green called it what it is, a cover-up. Noem was in a rush to protect the officers without regard for the life that was lost. And in doing so, She wasn't just violating a moral principle, she was breaking the law. When a federal official makes false public statements about a killing to obstruct justice and protect subordinates from accountability, that's a crime. Let me give you an analogy for how insane this is. Imagine a police chief whose officers shoot someone, and before any investigation, before examining evidence, before reviewing witness statements or video footage, that police chief holds a press conference and says the victim was armed and dangerous and threatening our officers. Then video emerges showing the victim was unarmed and posed no threat. That police chief would be fired immediately, possibly prosecuted for obstruction of justice or making false statements. The outcry would be universal. That's exactly what happened here, except it's not a local police chief. It's the Secretary of Homeland Security, overseeing the largest federal law enforcement apparatus in the country, lying about a killing to protect her agents. And this isn't an isolated incident. Green referenced another case, Renee Nicole Good, also killed by ICE in Minneapolis earlier in January. An NPR investigation found that internal reviews contradicted the White House narrative about that killing too. Multiple bystander videos and witness testimony showed one version of events, while administration officials described something completely different. This is a pattern. Federal agents kill people. Videos contradict the official story. And instead of transparency and accountability, we get cabinet secretaries lying to cover it up. Now, here's what makes Noem's conduct even more outrageous. CNN's analysis noted that no available footage shows Pretti even holding a weapon in his hand at the scene. A concealed carry weapon was later retrieved from his waistband area after he was already on the ground. The word brandishing has a specific legal meaning, displaying or waving a weapon in a threatening manner. Pretti never did that. He had a legally registered firearm in a concealed holster, which he never drew. But Noem used the word brandishing anyway because it justifies the shooting in the public's mind. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. That's a calculated lie designed to shape public perception and insulate her agents from accountability before anyone could examine what actually happened. Green also pressed the officials on whether officers should be prosecuted when there's misconduct. They agreed that law enforcement misconduct needs to be investigated and prosecuted. Green then applied that standard to Noem herself. If making false public statements to cover up a killing is misconduct, and it is, then she should be investigated right along with the officers who killed Pretti. This is like if a CEO's company gets caught in a massive fraud, and instead of cooperating with investigators, the CEO goes on television and lies about what the company did, making false statements to protect the employees who committed the fraud. That CEO wouldn't just be fired, they'd be indicted, because the cover-up is often worse than the crime, and making false statements to obstruct justice is itself a crime. What we're really seeing here is the complete breakdown of accountability when federal agents kill people. The pattern is consistent across the Trump administration. Agents use force, officials lie about what happened, videos emerge contradicting those lies, and then nothing. No consequences, no accountability, just officials doubling down or going silent while their false statements remain uncorrected in the public record. This matters because Alex Pretti's family deserves justice. They deserve the truth about how their loved one died. They deserve accountability for the officers who killed him and the secretary who lied about it. As legal analyst Marcy Wheeler noted, by lying about how her agents killed Pretti, Noem makes herself part of a conspiracy in that killing. She's not just covering up after the fact, she's actively participating in the obstruction by providing a false narrative designed to protect the killers. And I want everyone watching to think carefully about who the real victims are here. It's not Al Green. He's a United States congressman with institutional power who will continue doing oversight regardless of whether officials cooperate. It's not even the ICE and Border Patrol officials who had to sit there and listen to Green dismantle their boss's lies. The real victims are Alex Pretti, who was killed while exercising his First Amendment right to film law enforcement. It's Renee Nicole Good and the other people killed by federal agents under similar circumstances. It's the Latino communities in Houston and across the country facing racial profiling, arbitrary detention, and violence from ICE agents operating under Noem's leadership. As Green stated in his press conference, these practices mirror the painful history of how Black Americans have long been targeted and criminalized in this country. An injury to one is an injury to all. What's happening to immigrant communities today, the racial profiling, the unconstitutional detentions, the excessive force, these are violations of everyone's constitutional rights. And here's what should terrify every American, regardless of your views on immigration policy. If federal agents can kill a U.S. citizen who's filming them and the cabinet secretary can lie about it with impunity, then none of us are safe. If Noem can falsely claim a man was brandishing a firearm when video shows he was holding a phone, she can make that claim about anyone. If there's no accountability for federal officials lying about killings caught on video, then there's no accountability, period. Green called for Noem's prosecution. He said she should do time. And he's right. CBS News documented the sharp contrast between what Trump officials say and what video shows. That's not a difference of interpretation. That's not competing narratives. That's Noem lying about a killing to protect her agents, violating the very principles that the officials at Green's hearing acknowledged are fundamental to justice. The bottom line is this: Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem publicly stated that Alex Pretti was brandishing a firearm and wishing to inflict harm on federal officers. Multiple videos from multiple angles prove both statements are false. Pretti was holding a phone. He never drew his legally registered concealed weapon. He was tackled, subdued, and then shot by federal agents. Noem made her false statements immediately before any investigation, violating the basic principle that law enforcement officials don't testify or make public claims before having all the facts. She did this to cover up for her agents to shape public perception and to avoid accountability for a killing that video evidence shows was unjustified. Al Green exposed this lie methodically, getting officials to acknowledge the principles Noem violated, showing them the video evidence and calling for her prosecution. Because when a cabinet secretary lies about a killing caught on video, that's not just misconduct. That's obstruction of justice. That's participating in a cover-up. And if there are no consequences for that, then we've abandoned any pretense that federal officials are accountable to the law or the truth. One execution at a time, one lie at a time, one cover-up at a time. That's how you get a lawless government where federal agents can kill with impunity and cabinet secretaries can lie about it without fear. And that should scare all of us. If you appreciate this detailed breakdown of government accountability failures, please like and subscribe. Turn on notifications for videos exposing federal misconduct. Share this with anyone who needs to understand why lying cabinet secretaries must face consequences. Thanks for watching. Bye.